Hi, all you lovely creative people. This is June from Oaknwich Lane Designs. And at first, I thought I was going to do another reenactment for you on how to do the floor to my witch's castle's bathroom. But it turns out that when I started putting the, now this was in here, I had to take it out, and that was a little hard because I really got it in there good with only 4 screws. This is wood, and as you can see, there's a little hole cut out, and that's for the battery pack. That's right over here because we will have some lights in this. It was just too high, and it didn't look right. And so I decided that I was going to have to make another base. Now this is wood. I don't have the tool to slice this in half this way, so I had to figure out how to make another base. So I'm just going to put this away because this has some little screen things, which I'm going to show you next, that keep poking me. So I'm going to put this on the side, and I'll show you what I decided to do. I have these lids that go on top of aluminum foil food containers. I bought them. I hope I'm not going to shine you out too much because I wanted to use this for the basis of my mirrors that I was making a while back, and I do have a video on that. But you couldn't just get 1 or 2, and I didn't remember what restaurant I went to that still packs their food like this with this kind of a container with the mirror on the other side. So I went and I ordered some, and I got like 25 of these things. So I'm not going to be making 25 mirrors. But when I was racking my brain and saying, oh gosh, now what am I going to use? I decided, I looked at these and they fit pretty good. Wherever they don't fit, I will be able to just patch up. Plus, they will not be as thick. Now, currently, the floor that I'm going to be using is in the oven because oops, we're crooked. Why are we crooked? It's in the oven because it's drying because there's a lot of glue, and I'll explain what I did. I had purchased, this is regular screen type material. I've had I have a whole like big piece of this, and it's just regular screen. I think I got it at Home Depot or some kind of a hardware store, and I used it in the past to reinforce polymer clay when I was making pieces that I needed to be pretty strong. So I took 2 of these, and I took a sheet of this screen, glued it in between, cut around to make it even. I did that twice. And then I also layered a couple of more of these pieces with glue in between, and I wanted it to dry. Lined it all up, and it's in the oven. It's at 180 degrees. It's on a flat surface. And then I have a big pot of water on top of it so that it will keep it nice and flat. By the time that dries, and then I use the Heather Tracy tip, Thick It Works, please go see her, lovely, of you putting super glue over this whole entire surface and spreading it out. It's going to be very, very strong. And it's not, the end result is, it's not going to be as thick as that wooden piece that I just put over on the side. So let me get this stuff away. I don't need that right now. I have to make a polymer clay cane, and this is a checkerboard pattern. Now I'm going to be the first one to admit that I very rarely, if ever, make polymer clay canes. There are people on YouTube that do I've seen some beautiful cane work, unbelievable, and even with the instructions, I still don't know how they did it. So if you're interested in doing cane work, I would suggest that you go and look up some of those channels. But for this particular cane, I just wanted to look like small tiles, like bathroom tiles from a long time ago. So I had an article. Now this is this is how old this is. And I can't show it because of copyright. I don't want to get in trouble. It was the Santa Claus magazine from 1994. And in it, Marie Colson, who I love her work, she was a pioneer. I read articles that she made. I saw her on Carol Duvall show when that was still running. Pioneer in polymer clay and making very whimsical, beautiful pieces. I looked to see if the article, I Googled it, it's not on the internet that I could find, but Maureen Carlson is, and I just absolutely love her. When I was starting and watching years and years ago, she was one of the people, besides Catherine Dewey, that I just love their work and followed them. So this, I am following her cane, her checkerboard cane, and how to do it. And you can follow whoever you want, but if you're interested in making things in polymer clay, I would definitely suggest that you look up and see if you can find anything of Maureen Colson's work. She has a shop on Etsy, and she sells face molds, I believe, and her faces are just absolutely wonderful. So, like I said, polymer clay people, if you're watching and you don't feel good sculpting a face, go look at her Etsy shop. Go look at her online, and she has molds that you can use. So what you have to do is to get this done, and hopefully I'll show you, is you need 5 pieces of one color, the same size, and you need 4 pieces of another color. Now with polymer clay, you have to condition it to make sure, especially I use Primo. You have to condition it, soften it up, sort of like knead it. And a lot of times I use my pasta machine to help me with that, because it can be a pain in the neck. Not everybody uses a pasta machine with polymer clay, but if you're going to use polymer clay a lot, besides a good blade, now this is my old one, it's a little dull. I have a real sharp one that I got from Polymer Clay Express, which again, if you buy any polymer clay from there, you get a 10% discount. Just say that you're watching my video, and they will give you the discount after the sale, so they'll refund you the money. Right now I can just use my dull one. I keep my really sharp new one in its container because this one is so sharp you can really cut yourself with this. So this one is, I mean, you could still cut yourself with it, but it's a little bit harder to do so. Probably tonight I will. And I don't suggest children using any of these blades. I really don't. If you have a child that wants to work with polymer clay, get them a dull knife, get them a pastry board scraper. Do not let them use those blades. They're just dangerous. Now where the heck did, oh, here we go. Can't see over. This is called a makings clay, and it's a clay extruder. And what you do is you open it up by twisting the back. And the reason why I'm using this, and real clay caners probably are like laughing hysterically right now, I'm glad I'm giving them comic relief, is because I want my initial canes that I'm using, or my initial pieces of polymer clay, to be all the same size. It'll help me in the future making this cane. I have to get this black clay in here. Sometimes it's a little thick and it sticks to the sides. Okay, I'll cut off that little piece. Now, any of the clay with canes, you're going to be, well, maybe you're better at it than I am, but there's a lot of clay you can't use scrap clay, I guess it's called. And you can always use that. I have a little baggie that I keep all my scrap clay in, so that way if I'm making a piece, which I really don't care what the color is because I am intending to paint it at the at the beginning, I'll just use my scrap clay. When I first started with polymer clay, I decided I wanted to get all the colors, because you go in the store and you see all of these beautiful colors. And right now, besides some of the colors that I do have, I'm going to be sticking with black, probably ecru, and the translucent for my mice, and a flesh tone. I can paint or use alcohol inks, any other kind of clay, and I like the ecru because it's got that off-white background. It's prettier, but I'm using up all my clay before I just buy only those in the future. Now with these clay extruders, and we're just going to call them the clay press from now on, because I'm not going to get that word out a lot more times. You get these little discs, and they have all sorts of different types of sizes of holes and shapes that you can use. But right now, I'm just going to use this, the largest hole that I have. I put it here on the top, and then you just screw on this piece right here, and you start to turn the back handle, and the clay will start coming out very shortly. As you can see, it's coming out. And you keep twisting and twisting and twisting. Now this is not a tool that most people need to buy, although it is fun. You could it just depends on what you're doing with polymer clay. To me, you need a clay tile, a clay blade, and I need my pasta machine. But there are people that probably don't use the pasta machine. They use other things to soften up their clay. But I like my pasta machine. And I think I've told you before, what happened was when I inherited my mother's pasta machine, I make pasta on that machine, and I use my pasta, the one you roll, not a big machine, it's a hand cranker. I used mine, and I dedicated it to polymer clay, because once you use anything from the kitchen for polymer clay, you should keep it for the kitchen. I mean, keep it for polymer clay, not in the kitchen. Okay, so I just take, the piece that was stuck on this off, put it with the rest, clean up the disc. Now, for some reason that I have never figured out, the last piece always gets very rubbly. So I just cut that off. And if I have to make another roping of clay or tube or pipe, whatever you want to call it, I will do so. But I think I have enough clay here, because I only need four of these. 5 of one color, 4 of another color. Now, I lay it out against my ruler, and I'm just cutting off the end so it's nice and sharp. And I'm measuring out 3-inch pieces. I hope you can see this. So I want to do it as straight as possible. Sometimes you got to put your head right over it. That's 1. That's 2. So you're getting a straight cut. That's 3. Bring this piece over. So that would be 1, 2, 3 at the 4 mark. Get your blade, and even if your blade is dull like this one is, still respect it. Don't take unnecessary risks, because it still can cut you. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is on the side. All right, I don't think I need the ruler much anymore. Let's move some of this stuff that I don't need out of my way. Now, I just wanted to tell you what I usually do with this if I wasn't on camera was I'd clean out this because some clay gets in here and make sure this is all nice and neat because I like it to be ready to go for the next time that I use it. And I have a little baggie of all the other sizes of this. I should have had it out here so you could see it, but of course that was the one thing I forgot to bring over. Okay, this is extra, I believe. How you start this cane is you line up these little pieces. 1, 2, 3, line them up. Okay, and then on the next layer, and I'm just flattening them a little bit, I'm not really flattening them much at all. On the next layer, you put the white in the middle, and you put the black on either side. Now, if you work with clay a lot, I'd love to know your opinion on this. I always find that the white is always so much harder to condition than especially a color like the black. I don't know what that is, but I always find that. I'm just pressing this one down a little bit, and I'm getting the white here. So then the last layer is black in the center and white on the two sides. Okay, and it's going to look like this. And I use the same disc, but the white is a little thicker, but that's okay because there's more black than white in this. Now, off camera, what I did was I rolled a piece of the black clay on my pasta machine, it's a 5, but it's about a 1/16 of an inch thick. Lay that down on your tile. Wait, let's do it this way. Okay, straighten out the edge, and once I get it down flat, come on, boys and girls, very good. Now this is the firm one. It has a little flimsy, but it's a little flimsy, but not as flimsy as some other blades. I like the firm clay blades. I also have a flimsy clay blade, but I like the firm one, especially when you're doing cane work. You need to have a firm clay blade. I'm lining up the edge of the cane right to the edge of my clay that I cut, this flat sheet. And putting it down like this. Okay, now I'm going to take my knife, my blade, and cut this off. Okay, put that with the rest of the black. So now this is covered. Now there's a lot of air in this too. Not everything is touching, but we're gonna work that out in a few minutes. Now I have to take off the black here. Close enough. You'll see in a little bit. Try to smooth out the seam as best as possible so that you can't see that there's a seam. You don't want the white to peek through on your seam. And now I just have to remember how I did all of this, which, to tell you the truth, I made that cane a while ago. Now this should be lined up a little bit better than I did, but we're going to have to cut off some of the clay anyway, so it's okay. Now, what you have to do is I just start rolling it on either side. Roll, roll, roll. Just trying to condense all the clay because there was a lot of holes in there, air holes. You can go out like this. Use your fingers if you don't have. Your fingers are just as good as a clay roller. And you're trying to start to stretch it out. Keep turning it as you stretch it. Keep turning it so that you're not just stretching in one spot. Try to keep it as even as you can. I notice my ends. Ooh, I have a tear. How interesting that is. Okay, well, we're going to just fix that a little bit. It's probably because my white clay wasn't as conditioned as it should have been, so it tore. It's tore, not teared. Tore. Sorry, English. Okay. Keep stretching it out as far as you can go. And this is going to be a pain right here. I know it's going to be a pain. And now, just to show you, I should get out my good clay blade for this. There is quite a bit of waste. Okay, now why is that not? All right. Let's see this side. If this side's good. There we go. Okay. What happened to the other white one? Oh, it didn't come out yet. There we go. There she is. Alrighty. Now this is all scrap, and this is the size that we have right now, and we have to get it down to this size. Okay. So what we're going to do is, and it's so much easier to do this if it's in a square or a log. This thing is still not staying together. Okay. Alrighty. I don't think I can make 4 of these yet. So let's stretch it out some more. You're forceful, but you're gentle at the same time. You're not trying to kill it. You're trying to make sure that it stays square. Now let's see. How wide is this thing? I'm going to try to get it to at least 6 inches. Or maybe 8 would be better. Just keep stretching it out. Some people suggest you go from the center out, pulling it almost like they say, like you're pulling taffy. And you're watching it. Now I got a little narrower over there. So now I got to make everything that narrow. I'm pulling. Okay. Now let's see what we can do. Half of 8 is 4. And then 6. Oops, that was a bad 6. And now 2. Okay. So, okay, this one's got to get pulled out a little bit more. This has got to get pulled out a little bit more. There we go. Still not as small as that one. So now I'm going to have that problem where that can't be the white cracked. That's okay. Okay. And now you see I'm getting there. Still have to reduce it a little bit more. They have bullseye canes. They have flower canes. People do amazing work with canes. Here I am struggling to do a checkerboard, and just imagine, I don't need this anymore. But you know what? It's not my forte. I don't do this that often. The only reason why I'm doing this is because I wanted to have some different textures on this floor over here. And I thought that this would look cute. Okay, we're getting pretty much, oh, we want a little too much. Okay, then we just squish it back in. Squish it back in. Okay, trying to get it the same size as this guy. And we went too much. All right. I don't know why this came out so much smaller. Maybe I made 2 of, but whatever. We can use this and see how far we can get. And if I have to make another cane, I will, just to finish the floor. Okay. Now, you'll see that it's all messed up over there, but if you get a clean cut of it, it looks a lot better. Although I don't know where one of the whites went on this one. Hold on, where did it go? There we go. Okay, there we go. Now that white's going. I tell you, we're missing the whites. Well, this is the general idea, and this was the first. This is the second one I did. This was the first one I did off camera. Of course, they're much better when they're off camera. Okay, so let me show you what I'm going to do. At least you saw how you make a cane. If I don't get any good slices out of it, I'll just go make it again, but I'll do that off camera. Okay, so as I told you, the other piece is in the oven and it is baking. I am going to, once I put all the canes on this piece, I'm going to bake it separately at 275. That's going, the other base is at 180, just to dry out the glue. And then I will be gluing this base to that. Okay. Now, this is liquid polymer clay. I take it out of its container and I put it in here. And this is a paintbrush that I've dedicated to just liquid polymer clay. To this. This happens to be Fimo. I like Fimo liquid polymer clay. I can't give you a reason why. I just do. And what I'm doing now is just spreading a very thin layer of this stuff all over here, this paper, to help it to adhere better. And hopefully not have any, also to prevent air pockets. So I just put a thin layer of this all over here. Now I'm probably not gonna completely cover this on screen because I really want to concentrate on getting it done and cutting all of the canes properly. So I'll show you how I put a couple down, and then I will go off camera, finish it, bake it, or maybe finish it and then show you how I'm going to cut around the edges, bake it, and then bring in the completed floor. But, oops, we got a hair. Really? Do we have to have a hair in this? Okay. Okay, so this is pretty well coated. Shut that up so if it spills, it doesn't go all over. And just put this paintbrush back in its tin foil and wipe off my hands. Okie dokie. I think this, now, what I do with some of the, well, what I do when I did this cane work is I put it in the refrigerator because the harder it is, the clay, the firmer it is, the easier it is to cut. So I will see if this one that I made earlier is easy to cut, and if not, I'm going to take them both and put them in the refrigerator so it makes it easier because you can get better slices. Okay, which one? Let's see, this one's my real flexible blade, and this is my new straight firm blade. Just cleaning it off. Put it down on your ceramic tile or whatever you're using. Now I have like lots of layers of paper towel here. Okay. All right. Make sure you know. Okay, now I tell you watch the blade, and here I am playing with it, but I'm putting my hand down behind it and then just pulling. I'm not going into it because you definitely cut yourself like that. Almost just did by that. Okay, so you want very, very thin slices. And the only way that I know of to get thin slices is you really have to be on top of it. So if you see my head, I apologize, but I'm trying to keep my blade straight as it's going down. Okay, that's one. You don't really need thick slices of this. Go straight, straight, straight. Because it is not the end all support. It's just a decorative layer. And then you turn it, it starts to get flat on one side, so you turn it around. And you take your time cutting. I cut 4 slices, so I'll put this on the side, and you just take your little, wherever you're putting it. I'm going to start in the center. It's a little uneven in the cut, but I don't care if the floor is rubbly. What I mainly am concerned about is I want them to stay the same size. That was a problem when I did the other one, was they sort of got off, like they weren't the same size. And what happened was, when I was trying to straighten them out, a lot of the squares didn't look square anymore. They looked all sorts of weird things. So angled, and so what I am doing is just sort of pressing. If it's not the same size, I'm pressing it to get together to make it the same size. And I'm just laying it down. With the liquid polymer clay, it's almost like grabbing it out of my hands. See, this one's a little, somehow or another. That's why you have to keep turning it. See, and this one's bigger than all of them. Now, how did that happen? I don't know, because I'm trying to press it in. They start to get, is that, yeah, that's the sharp one. They start to get misshapen, and then they don't look like boxes anymore. They look weird. So before I go too far, I'm going to try to get this to look like a square as much as possible. Now, of course, I'm getting my fingers in all of the liquid polymer clay. No one said it wasn't going to be messy. Now this end over here, not that side, that just has to go out a little bit. Okay, it looks a little bit better if I keep concentrating it and doing it like that. Now when I put this in the oven, I am going to be putting a piece of parchment over this. It's going to go in the oven on this ceramic tile. I'm going to put a piece of parchment over the polymer clay, and I will put a weight on top of it. And then when I bake it, I'm just going to be baking it just a tad longer, just so that it really bakes, because there's so many things. Now, what I use as a weight is a pot, and I fill the pot with water. And that makes a very nice weight. And it also, by putting the parchment over the polymer clay, there's no contact with the pot with the polymer clay. So now by just doing this a little bit now, I'm getting them more the same size without getting them so misshapen, so they still look relatively like squares. Now, are they flat and even? No, they're not. Some of them are a little taller than others, and that's okay. This is an old bathroom, and not everything is going to be flat, but as long as they look square to me, then I'm going to be happy. See if I can get the other one without killing it. Here. Some of them, if you notice, if I can point some out, some of them are really not square. They're sort of, I don't know what they are, what shape they are. And although when you hold it down here, you can't see it, but if you look up real close, I didn't like that. That bothered me a lot. So that's why I'm paying attention so much more this time around to making sure that there is all of the white versus the black is as square as possible. So let me see if I can get a few more. This is the old one. Again, my hands got all gooky from the liquid polymer clay. So did my blade. All right. Let's see. This is the good blade again. I know what side the sharp side is before I picked it up. Put this over there for a second. See if I can get a few more canes cut thin, nice and thin. And the reason why you're trying to be overhead as much as possible is because all you should see is the top line here. You shouldn't see any of the rest of the blade, and that way you know you're going down as straight as humanly possible. This takes me a while. Now this one's a little thicker. This takes me a while to do. I am sure that there are people who can chop this up really fast like they do in onions, but I am not one of those people, and that's okay. I'll get the job done. So now it's getting flattened out one way because I kept cutting it. I'm supposed to like turn it every time I cut it, and I haven't been doing that. So that's going to make it not as square. Okay, so let's get a few more on, and then I'm going to turn it off and go finish this. This is looking pretty good. That one was a little thin. Let's put another thick one again. Oh, that one's really sort of thick. There's no way I can cut that down. Leave that on the side. We could use other pieces of it. This one needs to be shaped up a little bit more. Okay. I'm liking how by paying more attention, I wasn't paying as much attention to the other one. I was just trying to make them all fit in. So they did get very funny looking. Some of them are wrong blade, geeky. This top one's going to come a little bit more. Okay. Let's see. This is a little big. All right, let's put it down. And then maybe we can shape it with this. I think this shaping better. Okay. Let's grab another one. That was a little thin. Some of them were a little thick. Doing the best we can. And there we go. Now flop it like that so that it, okay. That's a little thick. Okay, as compared to that one underneath it. Take this one over here. Just try to make them all fit together. By doing it individually, I'm not waiting to the end. I think it's coming out a little bit better. Ah, don't cut it. Okay, so this is what we got so far. I'm going to take a break from videotaping and continue getting this whole thing. I might going to pause it. Hopefully I don't lose it because I don't want to make a reenactment of this because like I told you before, canes are not my cup of tea. But I think it's looking better than the other one. It's at least not as off. So let me see if I can get this all done. Show it to you before I bake it. If not, if I have to make another cane, I'll probably I'll do that tomorrow. But it'll all look like the same day to you because it'll be back to back. Okay, so I'll be back in a little bit. I finished the piece off camera, and this is also baked. One of the reasons why I finished it totally off camera was because the clay cane that I made earlier in the video, I didn't condition the white as well as I should have, the white polymer clay, and the cane just wasn't coming out right. It looked horrible. So I redid the cane. As a matter of fact, I made another two because I remembered how I did it originally, and then I put those two together. The first cane I cut in half, and that's this, and the second cane I cut in half and put on top of it. So I recreated it. I put it all down. I baked it. How I baked it was I flipped this over on this ceramic tile, and I put a pot that was filled with water on top of it to keep it flat. You can see that it's still bent a little bit, but that's okay. It'll straighten out when I glue it. And I baked it at 275 for about 25 to 30 minutes just to make sure it was done. I let it cool, and then I pried it very gently off, and since polymer clay does not stick to the ceramic, it came off. Now I'm pretty happy with this. There's some parts that I'm not crazy about, but I'm going to put that to the back. In the meantime, the piece that I was talking to you about earlier, which was the basis for the floor, in which I'm going to be gluing this on, this finally dried up. It's laminated. I put glue in between, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 or 8 layers, and also 2 layers of that screen material that I bought at Home Depot to make it pretty darn, I mean, this is pretty darn firm. It's not bending at all. So I'm very happy with how this came out, and in the end, when all of these are glued together, it's going to be a much less thick floor to put in the bottom of the castle. Now what I have left to do here is I have to have a hole to cut out for my battery pack, because that's going to go underneath, and then I can glue these up, because I do not want to make the hole with the polymer clay piece. It's a drill bit. I don't want to make the hole with the polymer clay piece because I do not want to have to fix anything here. Once the hole is made, then I can just glue this on. Once that's all glued together, I will be putting it in the bottom of the castle. Hopefully you can see. Okay, the angle. Now there will be a little lip where the thickness of the other floor was, where I didn't put this corrugated cardboard all the way down, but that will be taken care of. I will put more paper mache in there, and then I'm also going to be putting coffee sticks over this part of it to make it look like a beadboard, to make it look like beadboard, and painting that black. So you won't see this little, I'm trying to see the angle, you won't see this little separation between the wall and the floor. Plus there will be a molding going down, so that'll, if there's any weird looking things, the molding will take care of it also. So that's about it for this. I think we're getting there with that. Once the floor goes in, and the window, which I started working on, but I'm going to be coming back to. Once the window is in, I can start with the beadboarding. Now, which I will explain more later. Here is the shelf I cut out. That will go over here, and that I'll do later because that's going to be with some candles that I'm making that'll be hanging on the shelf. And everything, all the wiring and all the electrical work has to be done prior to me putting the beadboard on here, because the beadboard is going to be covering all of the wiring, and I will be making a hole up through the shelf to put the candles in. But again, that's another video, another step in this whole process. I hope you're liking it so far, and just more videos to come. So until I see you again, have fun creating beauty.